Let me do this. I am Todd from GoodCleanFunLife.com.
I'm Tony Russo, no relation. All sorts of fun stuff this week. We're actually getting to the point now where we're cycling through and we have like regular annual stories upon which to report, which is kind of weird. It's like, didn't we talk about that? Yeah, we did a year ago. That's how our years have been going. But been a busy year. Going to be a busy next year. So let's get right down to it. I want to preempt your story about America's Coolest Party by saying that I bumped into the gang from downtown Berlin at the Third Friday event in Salisbury.
I'm fine.
Robin Tomaselli and her sister, whose name escapes me.
Her sister? Robin's sister?
Yeah.
Escapes me as well.
Oh, good. Hopefully they're not watching. And Michael Day, I got to see. I haven't seen him in a million years. But they were all excited about America's Coolest Party. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, because it's another great event in Berlin. It's actually pretty interesting right now because with Natalie being the chamber president, seeing a little bit of the behind the scenes sort of stuff that's going on. But because there are certain events that are the chamber events, and this was a town event. And Ivy put this one on, and Ivy, the successor to Michael Day, Captain Awesomeness, or whatever his official title was.
Right.
It was a good one because she was able to get the Kelly Bell Band, which is a great act, regional, and that sort of thing. Got them to come out. It was kind of, it was a beautiful, beautiful day. And it was a nice, mellow event. Burley had a beer truck. There was a lot of people in the streets, and it was mostly just a little bit of beer in the streets and some good music.
Now, when you say Burley had a beer truck, they have their own now because they don't go through a distributor, right? So they just bring, if they run out of a keg, they can just go back to
right.
They can grab it.
Yeah, I guess they didn't have a beer truck; they had a beer tent. So they had, they had a couple cold boxes. But yeah, I mean, it was there's Burley beer in the streets, and I guess it was planned, and I kind of missed it and or avoided it. But there was a flash mob that happened to one of the popular songs. And maybe we've been doing this long enough that I'm getting old and assuming some of your traits.
Yeah.
Because doing an organized line dance in the middle of town as a flash mob did not strike me as a cool thing to do.
No, it's awful. It's awful. The flash mobs are, when they're pulled off perfectly, they're just irritating.
Yeah.
When they're pulled off less than perfectly, they are just aneurysm inducing.
Yes.
And the thing is that people want to have. I actually dealt with this with the boss I worked. He wanted to always have a flash mob when I was running the nonprofit with him. He's like, we need to run. I'm like, you are the reason that there are no good flash mobs, because you really think it's just like, get some kids, have them do a coordinated dance in the middle of the street. It will surprise everybody. And it's like, no, the ones that work well are the ones where it's halfway over before anybody notices that it's going on.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's like one guy, he's doing his thing, and they're not just showing up at an appointed place and time and doing Thriller is just exercising your First Amendment right to assemble.
Yes. Yes. And I think it would have been better if they had just said, hey, we're fun. The mayor is dancing in the streets to Uptown Funk, with a bunch of kids. If they would have that, that's great. But, claiming this as a flash mob is, a little bit disconcerting to me.
Yeah. And also it is, in the accelerated digital age, it's really like the equivalent of, you know, hey, let's all stage a sit-in. I mean, it's so 2011. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I'm not a fan of the Flash Rogues. I'm a fan of Ivy though. I met her a couple times. She was also downtown at Third Friday, but I met her on one of the beer tours that I did. And she seems really enthusiastic.
I think she's awesome. You know, we're just kind of getting to know her and with what she's going to bring to the table. But and I know we've talked about it before. The best thing about Ivy is that she has known Michael for a long time. Michael did such a great job, pretty much handpicked her to be his successor. So I think it's going to be a good thing for sure. And there was a little the coolest small town party other than the flash mob. There was a little snafu. I guess when you bring in a jazz funk band like the Kelly Bell band that has more people than can fit on the little town stage, all with plug-in equipment, there was some power issues that sort of delayed them really getting into playing. But I was very happy to see these guys are real true professionals, and nobody was, you know, miffed more than necessary. But they when they finally got going, they played their allotted up until the allotted time, and then well past, because they had missed a good 20 minutes of play time. So it was a pretty cool happening.
Yeah, that happened with, I'm sorry, to some extent with, I think it was the Oompa band or something at the Oktoberfest, where there were so many people, they like had to go stand out on the street, and like they just kind of made like, there was the drummer was on the riser, and then everybody else was standing in front of the that's funny. I looked because my wife left, but it looks like I'm looking at you to make my point. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. That's the one.
It's funny, and for anyone who does watch this in the future, I apologize for yawning. I'm still in audio mode, so I feel like I can just do anything. I could pick my nose. I forget oftentimes that I am on camera. So Todd's talking, and I'm like, oh! I'm like, well, they can't hear me. It's like it never happened. But I realize that's not the case.
And it's especially now as I've been trying to drive the dual camera. You know, even before, if I were talking, the camera would be on me. Like you can't even. So that's why. Actually, I don't know if you'll notice. I'm drinking a liquid substance out of a cup as opposed to, you know, a bottle or canned. So
is that because Sierra Nevada hasn't ponied up?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
One of my favorite podcasts is Judge John Hodgman podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
I love John Hodgman. I'm not familiar with the podcast though.
He has a great podcast every week, and he picks out companies to like blackmail into sponsoring him by saying nice things about them and then threatening to stop saying nice things about them. And one that he's been doing recently is the Utz Potato Chip Company, which he's a big fan of Utz potato chips. And Moxie Soda is the other one. And every time someone mentions soda, he'll be like, "Have I told you Moxie Soda is dead to me?" And some mayonnaise company also. There's a mayonnaise, an artisan mayonnaise company. He's always like, they have to start sponsoring the podcast. So I thought that's what you're doing. Like Sierra Nevada, if you ever want to see me drinking your pale ale again, pony up. Otherwise, I'm just promoting Marvel or DC, not even Marvel.
I know. You know what's funny is about this is I've had this coffee mug for a long time, and I am definitely a Marvel guy over a DC guy. But for whatever reason, it's not like I should have a Spider-Man mug or something. But that's what it is.
Superman's cool. I have I think I might be officially a DC guy. Because I haven't seen Daredevil yet. You can talk about it if you'd like. I'm going to watch it. Actually, I have an appointment with a buddy of mine. We're going to watch all 13 episodes. We're just going to sit down and plow through.
Yeah.
But when I was in high school, that was I wasn't nerdy enough to read lots of comic books, but I like Daredevil the best. I read a lot of Daredevil. I read some Batman, and I read Spider-Man. So mostly that's DC.
No, that's all. Daredevil is Marvel, and Spider-Man is Marvel.
Oh, see, I have no idea what I'm fucking talking about.
So, so let me go full fanboy on you for a second. I read a lot of Daredevil when I was a kid, and Frank Miller is the one who did a lot of the writing and drawing.
Right.
And then he's the one that went over and did The Dark Knight Rises, which was what breathed, this darker crime investigation thing into the whole Batman series. And that's really what more of the movies are based off of. So I'm definitely a Frank Miller fan. So and I can't say enough good things about the series, the Daredevil series. Not only that, I felt like they stayed true to the character and all the fanboy stuff, but it was just a good show. It was interesting. It was based in reality, as opposed to just like craziness. And I really feel like Netflix is the future of entertainment.
It is very cool. I read a tweet by someone who says the only thing that's really unbelievable about Daredevil is that nobody ever moves out of Hell's Kitchen. Why don't they just move?
Right.
But no, my complaint. What if you want to just watch a movie? You can't anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you can watch a 13-hour movie,
right?
You can watch a 20-hour movie, but you just can't watch a 2-hour movie. I would watch a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
But like, even the movies now, like, are like, that many of them are installments. Otherwise, they're like indie movies, and I missed the middle of the road. I don't know if we're ever going to see it again.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're ever going to have a solid drama that's worth watching. A 2-hour drama, or a 2-hour comedy that doesn't star Adam Sandler.
Paul Rudd.
Or
Paul Rudd.
I've been Paul Rudded out. I was way on the Paul Rudd. I'm done with him wagging a long time ago. I don't dislike him, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in Ant-Man. But yeah, there are other actors, right? Everybody's like, they only make superhero movies. I'm like, no, they make other movies, but they only star the people who aren't in superhero movies yet.
Yeah. No, there's probably some truth to that. But I look at it this way. So I have never dreamed of making a major motion picture.
Right.
I joke about my dream is to have a cable access show in my mom's basement, just like Wayne's World. But I feel like, somebody like Joss Whedon, who's doing the Avengers now, but formerly did Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. If he would have had Netflix to be able to do a show on where, you still have the character development and you have, the back and forth where you can tell stories in short arcs and episodes, but also, character development and long story arcs, which is what I'm used to, or what I think of when I think of comic books is,
right,
long story arcs with all of these little stories in between. That just seems like me as a wannabe storyteller, because with the media production stuff, that's very appealing to me, and I like to see the success in that.
And we also, it's also important though not to over romanticize it, because if you'll remember, one of the reasons that comic books kind of started to fall off was that, it just, after a while it gets tedious. You would like a little closure,
Right.
And also you have personnel switching in and out. So you go from a guy who's good at it to a guy who's less good at it. And then, a lot of these shows, it's like, okay, I watched The Blacklist, for example. I don't know if you're familiar with that show.
James Spader, yeah.
Right. I don't know if that can be on for 3 seasons.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? The first season was fantastic, and I'm interested in seeing the second season.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be held hostage by this. I want this to, it doesn't have to end neatly, but it does have to. These things have to end eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's too much. There was something that's been a recent television topic is that, and it's now literally impossible to see all of the good shows that are coming out every week, and it's just not tenable.
Right. Because there's so many. Yeah. Well, and then that's like Walking Dead. I know you're a zombie fan,
right? Yes.
I mean, like it's the same. It gets to the point where it's the same plot line. It's like, oh, this is happening now. We got to run. Somebody's almost caught.
Yeah, something bad happened.
Like every episode, and that's how like Lost was, when that was on. But anyway, that's
Well,
the same television.
It's still a pleasure to watch. I'm going to get the new. I believe my wife told me I'm going to get the new Walking Dead compendium when it comes out in October for my birthday. So the comic books have been fine, but the comic books, they kill a lot of people. Like they don't care who's popular, they don't care who's trending well, they don't care which demographics appeal. They will kill pretty much anyone in the comic books.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see the difference between the comic and the show. But I'm not watching the show. But since I watch it every week, and then I don't see it for a year. By the time the year rolls around, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll get around to it, but it's not critical to me.
Right.
So, tell me about the Bloody Mary contest.
So speaking of beer and Bloody Marys, no, you had mentioned before we got off topic that we were coming around, and the Varmint Fest, the events that happen on a yearly basis that we're involved with. Are becoming part of the normal story. Well, this year, unlike last year where Natalie got a bit too drunk, we had the Bloody Mary contest hosted by the guys over at Ocean 98. It was hosted at Smitty McGee's, and I don't know how familiar you are with Smitty McGee's.
It's in Fenwick Island.
And it's a it's a big bar, but it's very broken up, and this event has become very, very popular, and a lot of people enter, and a lot of people, the restaurants put an amazing amount of time and thought and resources, mostly into their garnish, to try to bribe the taste buds of the people who are casting ballots. But it's a big deal, and they had it at Smitty's this year. It sounds like next year, because it's now sponsored by the Secrets Vodka, that they're going to be doing it at Morley Hall, which will be I think a great place to do it because the size, and they'll be able to open it up to, maybe more people who want to enter, because they have to cap it at 20 entries. Now,
Secrets Vodka, where is that made?
It's made in Delaware. I think it's right now it's being made by I believe Delaware Distillery.
Cool.
But there is some talk of them moving distillery onto the property somewhere, like at Secrets. So I don't know how much room it takes to do that.
None.
Yeah,
it takes no room.
Well, maybe that's why they're talking about doing it.
And vodka isn't like whiskey or gin even. It's kind of like gin, but it's not like whiskey or bourbon. You can turn that shit around quickly.
Yeah.
Which is something that is worth knowing about, because in my recent book, Eastern Shore Beer, I pointed out how places not making their own stuff to sell to their customers is a relatively new phenomenon.
Yeah.
And what a lot of these places, and they don't have to be big, but what a lot of places are realizing is, for all the money I'm spending to try to get a lot of different things, I can make my own.
Right.
And sell it right here. And the profit margin is so significant that it doesn't even matter that I don't have these other things.
Yeah.
I mean, if Secret starts making its own vodka, that is not as if the place doesn't already have a license to print money. That's
Right.
a license to double print money. That's a license to print money and not have to pay for the ink.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's the plan. And I think, the liquor or the, because they have a rum and they have that, and they're not going for like high end stuff, but they basically are, from what I understand, having a quality product that's replacing their rail. And yeah, it makes pretty much sense.
Yeah, that Secrets isn't like my place, so I don't want to sound. But do you think the people who are doing shots after shots after shots at Secret can taste the difference between a really high-end vodka and a mid-level vodka?
No.
Do you think that like if you're not Russian, it's just freaking vodka. Drink it, right? Drink it. Say something inappropriate to the waitress.
Yeah.
And go on with your evening.
Yeah.
So I talk about vodka. Vodka it's almost easier to make quality vodka than it is to make crappy vodka. Like you have to cut it with stuff. You have to do something like essentially wrong on purpose.
Right.
Because what you're doing is you're boiling the alcohol out of the grains.
Yeah.
So if you get decent grains, and that's the question, like what's the quality of grain, and also how many times have you distilled it? But if you distill it once or twice, I mean, you had to distill it once, but if you distill it a second time,
it's already that much better. Yeah.
Absolutely fine. I mean, and like I said, you're putting it in tomato juice.
Right.
The other thing I don't want to make too big a deal out of this, but did I tell you the story about the buffalo wings? There's a guy who made the movie about buffalo wings.
No.
Guy made a movie about buffalo wings, and he went and he tried all the buffalo wings in the greater New York area, or in the, what's that called, up there, upstate New York. He went to parts of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Ohio, that whole region. And his theory was that the first buffalo wings aren't going to be the best buffalo wings, because they're like, you're like, oh, these are good. Now how can I make them better?
Right.
And people are succeeding in improving upon that first buffalo wing recipe.
Right.
But there is a point where you have, for instance, the what I'll call the Buffalo Wild Wings atrocity, where it's just like, you know what? We have so diluted what it means to be a Buffalo Wild Wing or a buffalo wing, that we're just gonna, you clearly don't care what you eat. Why should we care what we feed you?
Right.
My concern with the like, if I went to a place and they said we won the best Bloody Mary in the region competition, I'd expect to have a decent Bloody Mary there. But if they won it because they put like crab legs on top of it, or like floated a $50 bill on the top, but it's traditionally served, I didn't want one. Like, I don't want a Bloody Mary with caviar to make it salty. I just want a normal Bloody Mary, and I want one that's done well.
Yeah. Well, what I thought was interesting, and it's the popularity of the event has now made it a little bit flawed in its voting and the selecting of the best Bloody Mary. And I think I have a pretty reasonable explanation or solution. And if as it gets bigger, maybe they'll do this. But there should definitely be the hottest, or there shouldn't be. I mean, if you're just making something hot to make it hot, then that's just kind of asinine.
Best use of spice.
Best use. Well, that would be good. They say most creative, which to me most creative is that garnish. It's putting a $50 bill on top.
Right.
That's creative. You get that all day. But for best Bloody Mary, you come in, you pay $10, and it's a fundraiser for the college fund or whatever. So everybody feels good about that. And then you drink a ton of Bloody Marys. But let's face it, you have 20, people have entered. You're not going to drink, and people are pouring, 8-ounce, 16-ounce, big Bloody Marys. There's no way you're going to taste every one of them. So then it's kind of like you're jockeying for position and trying to get in as many people's mouths as you can, and then you're trying to get those drunk people who have had 5 Bloody Marys in the course of 2 hours to write your name on the ballot and actually submit it.
Yeah.
My solution is that they should still have the crowd favorite or most creative or whatever, and that will be that will be bragging rights. And you can pay your way to get that, but there should be a panel of judges who has a blind taste test with every entry without vodka. Like to sit down and you try. It's like, all right, salty sweet, horseradish, no horseradish, and be able to make a score based on 1-5 vote and that sort of thing. The problem is that's not as fun as
no one's gonna because that's actually a Bloody Mary mix competition. Like who's gonna be the celebrity judge on the Bloody Mary mix? The Bloody Mary mix.
Right.
And I think the choice of vodka is important.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're making 200 free Bloody Marys, you're not using the best vodka you can get your hands on.
Right.
You're not flying in a case from Russia expressly for the event. You've got pop off.
Yeah.
And no one will blame you and hold it against you. So let's we had a good show where we are running out of time. So before we go too far, let's talk about the Peppers rumors.
Well, one of the reasons we missed last week is because they were having a fundraiser down at Burley Oak, and finally got to talk to Jason and the guys who are the bartenders down there, and it looks like they are trying to open for the summer. There's not any demolition that's going to be happening at the hotel until the fall, so there's no reason why they shouldn't at least try to, and that's where it stands right now, which is good, I think, because that offers the opportunity for people to get in. I mean, there's so much, it's a dive bar. Everybody likes going there and, seeing the people. But to be in the place is, there's so much memorabilia. There's so much Ocean City stuff that's in there, that it would be a shame just for that all to vanish. And of course, what I want to do is I want to get the guys on camera. I want to get in the place and be able to do a little, documentary or just to be able to capture it on film so that we can hold on to that for a little bit. And, it's going to go someplace else in spirit for sure. But, I think that would be a good and exciting thing that they're going to be able to open for the summer.
But it's still going to be Hyatt. Hilton.
Well, no, I think what's going to happen is that they will take over the existing liquor license just as the tavern for the summer. So they're gonna they're basically gonna, I think they're gonna buy it from the estate that owns it right now. That's transfer, so they're just gonna play middleman. So
very, very cool.
Yeah.
We had lots of other stuff going on, but we are kind of capping out, and also I have to go to a budget meeting, so I have to go start drinking coffee so I can power through that.
That sounds like.
But all sorts of cool things coming up. I do want to plug real quick. If you don't ever get tired of looking at me talking on the internet, check out the Beer with Strangers podcast. This week we have Ty from Duclaw Brewery, and he'll be talking about all the fun things they're doing, and there's lots of fun things that they're doing, so that'll be fun to hear. That's it. I'm speaking at the Seaford Library Saturday if anybody wants to come out.
That's awesome.
It's $50 a plate, so or $60 a plate or something. So I don't get any of that money, but hell, I get the credibility. I'm a keynote speaker. I don't know what they expect from me. I'm sure they're going to be disappointed. But, and then last but not least, I went to Pork in the Park, and I have mixed feelings about Pork in the Park that we could probably talk about some other time. It looks like a lot of fun. I don't think it's a secret that the way we eat in this country is sometimes a little gross.
Yeah.
And the conspicuousness of it is sometimes like that is cool, and the other times you're like, this can't last forever. It feels like the the part before the apocalypse movie starts, where everybody's just like, I have a leg of ham in one hand, and a 4-foot sandwich in another. I'm like, yeah, that's it. This looks like the teaser for the movie about the mass starvation of the continent. That's what it looks like to me.
The prequel to Mad Max.
Exactly. But that's all I got for now. And how about you?
I got nothing.
All right. Well, may Todd give you the sense to live in a small town.
We'll see you next week at Happy Hour. Cheers.